Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back to the second lecture on blockchain technology. In the first lecture, we discussed and saw the basic foundations of blockchain. One aspect we must have realized by now is that whole technology is heavily dependent on cryptography. This technology, cryptography, is what provides blockchain with the capability to provide security, integrity, various capabilities like being tamper proof, and how people authenticate, how they prove that who they are, so that they are authorized to use the blockchain, make changes to the blockchain. It is all heavily dependent upon cryptography. I already have used some terms like hashing, PKI, encryption. So, in this we need to understand cryptography a little. So, the second lecture is dedicated to understanding this key technology which drives blockchain, and we will see the varieties. What is cryptography? As I mentioned, cryptography is a key foundation of blockchain. Cryptography is an art of encrypting things so that only people understand, only people who should have access to information have access, others are kept away, you cannot change without authorization, integrity is maintained, various things. A key aspect of information security in general and cryptography is to ensure three key elements. One is confidentiality. See, confidentiality means if I send you a message which only you are supposed to read, if somebody intercepts, remember when I send you a message over internet, even if you are sitting in the next room, the message might travel across the world and reach you. We do not know which paths the internet traffic takes. So, anywhere, anybody anywhere in the process, in the chain, in the internet, in the whole network, potentially can intercept this message. They can see the message, they can read it, change it. So, cryptography has to ensure that if I send you a message to you which is meant for you only, it will ensure that only you can read, nobody else. If I send a message to all my shareholders, only shareholders should be allowed to see, nobody else. If I send a message to my employees, only employees are allowed to see that, nobody else. That is the first element that cryptography should ensure. Second part is integrity. Integrity has many meanings, but in the context of information security, integrity means any change to the information, any change, any modification, any addition can only be done by authorized persons. No illegal, unauthorized changes are allowed, and whenever any change has been done, we should be able to trace who made the change, when and why, if possible. So, that aspect is integrity. The third part is availability. If I send you a message and your system is down, somebody has hacked into your system, so it is no longer available. I am running an e-commerce site, all my rivals are some hacker has attacked and brought my site down. I have announced a special deal today, tomorrow we have 50% off on all our smartphones. So, you all want to come to my site and buy the smartphones, but my site has been brought down. So, it is no longer available. Even that can affect security, it affects my business. So, any aspect of security, this is called the security triad: confidentiality, integrity and availability, conveniently forms the acronym CIA, and cryptography also has to ensure the three parts: confidentiality, integrity and availability. And cryptography, the name, it ensures security, integrity and availability of data and operations using encryption. So, that is the definition of cryptography. Encryption means safely transmitting messages or information from one party to another without being able to be tampered, changed or anything, using methods, using mathematical methods and other methods like codes, encryption codes or encryption algorithms. So, that essentially is cryptography. How do we secretly? They have a long history, cryptography has a long history. In the old days, for example, when the kings were fighting wars, they had to send a message to their generals in the field. If they send a message to a general, what if somebody from the opposing army catches hold of that? So, they had to send it in a secret manner. So, only that generals, they send a message, generals should be able to read. So, they came up with different cryptographic methods, simple methods starting from the Roman times. In fact, one of the simplest methods of cryptography is called Caesar algorithm or the Caesar cryptography. This is a more formal definition. Cryptography or cryptology is the practice and study of techniques for secure communications in the presence of third parties called adversaries. I am sending you a message, the danger is that a third party, an adversary, can intercept the message, read it, take action, change it, give you wrong information. This definition I have taken from Wikipedia, so generally accepted. There are other definitions which roughly correspond to a similar. When you talk about cryptography, there are certain simple key concepts we need to understand before we proceed any further. One is plain text. If I write the message to you saying that I am a teacher, you are the student, I am sending a message saying that you have passed. It is in English. So, anybody who reads that can understand if they know English. That text which I am sending you raw as it is called plain text. So, objective is I send it in plain text, you read it back in plain text, anybody intercepting in between cannot understand that. So, I convert plain text using some method, using an algorithm cryptographic method into something else. If somebody sees that, they will not be able to understand what it is, they will see gibberish. That text, when I convert my message to you, you have passed, is called cipher text. Plain text we convert it into cipher text. The method I use, how do I do? I can change letters, numbers, do some other manipulation which you will reverse on your side. The method which lets us do that, the various steps to do that is called an algorithm. So, we have plain text, we use an algorithm to generate the cipher text, and the algorithm is standard. If algorithm is standard, everybody will understand, when they have to intercept it once. So, algorithm uses something called a key. Algorithm uses the key to change. I will show it with an example which becomes much clearer now. And this art of converting the plain text message into cipher text is called encryption. The art or the act of converting cipher text back into plain text is called decryption. So, these are the 6 key concepts involved in cryptography: plain text, cipher text, algorithm, key, encryption and decryption. So, let us take a simple example. Just now I mentioned that I need to send you a message saying that you have passed or failed, as the case may be, in a secure manner, so that when I send you the message, email for example is not safe, it is not encrypted. If somebody intercepts, they should be able to see. So, I should send it to you in such a way that if somebody intercepts that, they will not be able to understand what I have sent you, it should look like gibberish, but once that message reaches you, you should know how to convert it back into the plain text. So, let us take an example. What do I want to send? I want to send you the word, instead of a sentence, I am going to send you a word called pass. If you get this, you decrypt it, you will know you have passed. What I am going to do? I am going to use an algorithm saying shift by 5 letters. So, what does it become? P, Q, R, S, T, U. So, what is going to reach you is U. A would be B, C, D, E, F. S would be T, U, V, W, X. So, if somebody intercepts this, they will not know what it is. If it reaches you, you know what to do. Shift back by 5. So, you convert it back. You shift U by 5, which becomes P, F by 5 A, X by 5 S. So, when I send you the plain text, I am typing plain text, this is the plain text. What am I converting? I am converting it into the cipher text or cipher. This is the algorithm, this and this, shift by 5, shift back by, shift by 5 is algorithm to encrypt, shift back by 5 is algorithm to decrypt. Now, here is the challenge, and this 5 is called a key. Somebody may know, everybody may know that I am shifting, I am using the shifting algorithm. So, how do I make it difficult for somebody to break this algorithm? I need to keep this 5 secret. So, I need to find a way to tell you that I am going to send you an encrypted message, it is going to be a shifting algorithm, and you need to shift, the key I am going to use is 5. So, this is one of the challenges of cryptography. We need to keep the key secret. The power of cryptography, the strength of cryptography depends on keeping the key a secret. So, one of the challenges, we will see how it is addressed in different ways, but for present let us assume that I find a way to tell you the key secretly. For example, if you come to the class, I can give each one of you a different slip of paper which has a number which tells you by how many letters your message has been shifted. So, once I keep the key secret, I can make the algorithm public. I can tell everyone that algorithm I am using is to shift, so far as I keep the key secret. I mean, this is a very simple case, you can try everything by 26 and come up with the answer, but in more difficult cases where the algorithm is more complex, the strength of the cryptography depends on keeping the key secret and making sure that all of us know what the key is. I know what the key for encryption is, you should know the same key that you are going to use it for decryption, and if there are 20 people in the class, I need to make sure that all 20 receive the key in a secure manner, only they know. Each key is different for each of them and they know, only they know, nobody else does. So, this in essence captures all the essential elements of cryptography. We have the plain text, we have the ciphertext, we have encryption, decryption, algorithm, encryption algorithm, decryption algorithm, the key, and art of encrypting, art of decrypting. Very simple example. By the way, this is called the Caesar algorithm or Caesar cipher, because Julius Caesar is supposed to have used this in sending messages to his generals in the field, and it is a simple shifting algorithm, transposition algorithm. We will see there are more efficient, more faster ways which leverage a lot of mathematics. We will not go into that, but we will try to understand what they try to do. So, in essence, that simple example captures all these 6 key concepts of cryptography. We will see that again. So, a simple example, I need to encrypt, I need to do the encryption, pass, this depicts pictorially, my algorithm is shift by 5, and what you receive, the ciphertext, if somebody intercepts the transmission, they will see this gibberish if access. On your side, you do the decryption, if shifted back by 5, and you get the message that you have passed. As simple as that, not as simple in real life, it is much more complex, and there are many varieties, wonderful varieties. We will see, take a look at that. There are different types of encryption. The first variety which you saw just now is what is called a two-way encryption. I encrypt it, I take the plain text, apply the algorithm, encrypt it, and you decrypt it using the algorithm, using the key, and recover the original plain text. So, this is two-way, I first encrypt and then decrypt. So, at the end point we both of us have identical plain text. This is called, this is the most, by far the most common type of encryption. We do want to be able to read what is sent to us, and some common algorithms which are used for plain text and two-way encryption are what is called DES, triple DES, digital encryption system, that is what it stands for. And now the current standard by and large is advanced encryption system called AES. The FBI has declared this to be the current standard. If you hear names like DES, triple DES, AES and all, understand that these are all the algorithms which are used for two-way encryption. Remember, in each case the key is going to be different. The length of the key, strength, and the strength of the algorithm depends on how much the key is secret and how do we exchange the key, what is the length of the key, but the algorithms are the same, names are common. The keys would be different in each case. There is another type of encryption. You might ask, what is it? One-way encryption. That means I encrypt something, that is it, send it to you. We cannot recover the original plain text whatever we may want, try. Sounds interesting, right? Why do we need that? We take something, encrypt it, store it. So, as it turns out, there are significant number of examples for one-way encryption, and we will see that blockchain heavily leverages one variety of it. This operation, one-way encryption, is also called hashing, also called message digest. So, I want to send it the word pass, I do the hashing operation on it, which is also an encryption. I get a fixed length ciphertext, it is called a hash. So, fixed length, we will see what it means. This is one type of another type of encryption where we encrypt it, store the ciphertext, that is it. Whatever you do, there is no decryption operation, you cannot recover the original text come what may. The interesting thing about hashing is that depending on which hashing algorithm I am using, whatever may be the length of the original text I give, the final hash produced is of the fixed length, same length. Whether I give a 4-letter word like pass, fail or the entire Ramayana, the hash length would be the same. It is also called hashing or message digest. Now, you may ask, what are the uses? What is the point in encrypting something and storing? As it turns out, there are significant number of uses. For example, consider one use. Suppose I am running this server into which all the entire class can log in. You all use your login ID and a password. Now, if I store the password in a two-way encryption, if somebody steals the password file, they can recover passwords of all of you. So, it is not safe to store passwords in a two-way encryption. So, typically in all computing systems, passwords are typically stored in a one-way encryption. So, how do we do the match? Once you set the password, I will hash it and store it in a file. If somebody steals that file, there is no way they can recover the password. When you try to log in, when you enter your password, I take that, hash that also. I compare with what I have, there is a match, you are in, no match, you are out. So, that is a very significant use of hashing. And second way, the reason it got the name message digest is, if I have sent you a message, one thing to remember about encryption is that they can be computationally very intensive, they can slow down your system because they are heavily mathematically oriented, they may do a lot of calculations and work. So, if I encrypt everything I send it to you, it will slow down the system significantly. What I need to ensure in this particular case is that if I send you a message, it could be in plain text, I need to ensure that nobody has tampered with, nobody has changed. I have sent you a message saying that you have passed. I do not mind others reading it, but when it reaches you, I do not want somebody to intercept it and change it into you have failed. It is tampering with that. So, hashing is used to ensure that message has not been tampered. The way it is done is, I send you an email saying that you have passed, I take a hash of that statement, send it to you separately. You receive the statement, hash that again, match the two, then you know that the message has not been changed. The third big usage is in blockchain. Remember, go back to the definition of blockchain. Blockchain is a chain of blocks linked, it is a hash chain linked by hashes. Each block, remember, is linked to the previous block because it includes the hash of that block in this block. Let me see if I have that slide here. There you go. See, every chain, this is the latest chain, it has a pointer to the hash of this block. That is why we call it as a hash chain. This block is linked to the previous block by a hash of that block included in this block. This block is linked to the previous block by including hash of that block in this block. That is why they are all linked to each other. And as we have seen in the earlier first lecture, if somebody tries to change the data here, goes back and tries to change a transaction, that will change the hash value here. One of the desired qualities of a hash is that if there is a small change in the original data, the final result should look completely different. So, that will ensure that, and the time taken is the same. So, that will ensure that if somebody is trying to tamper with, change one transaction here, they have to change the data in all these blocks, which takes the same time as adding a new block. So, new blocks get added and you will never be able to catch up. So, this is the third biggest use of hashing, and the very blockchain is a chain of hashes. Each block is linked by hashes. So, that is the one-way encryption. That is, we take a text, encrypt it, that is it, we will not recover the original text come what may. Some of the algorithms, common names you hear, MD5, SHA-1, secure hashing algorithm 1, SHA-256. These are all some of the names that you might hear. These are all hashing algorithms. They do it with various efficiencies, with many desirable qualities. Like if there is a small change in the original text, it results in a huge change in the final text, the length of the hash which comes out, issues like that. So, for blockchain, as we see, hashing, one-way encryption is a very significant application. And the third type of encryption difference, one is symmetric key encryption, other variety is asymmetric key encryption. Let me explain with an example again. The same example I have been using along. Remember, what is the difference between any two instances? Algorithm could be the same, the key is the difference. So, in a symmetric key encryption, I am sending you the word pass, shifting by 5, you get UFXX, you have shifted back by 5. So, the key I used to encrypt is the key I used to decrypt, same key, no change. Here, as I mentioned, the challenge is, how do I let you know that your key is 5 securely? How do I let everybody in the class know that their key is different? When we are dealing with thousands of users, as it happens in all internet sites and all, how do we distribute keys? It becomes a huge problem. It is not easy to securely distribute keys secretly. Now, we have to encrypt the key and distribute a key for that also. So, one of the big challenges in two-way encryption is to make sure that we have the same key and securely transmit it to any number of users we might have, which can become a nightmare. So, one ingenious solution which has been come up is what is called asymmetric encryption. Before I go into this, just realize the wonder of what it is. Two-way encryption is like the lock on your house. I put the lock on the door, lock it with the key. To open, you have to use the same key. So, if I and my spouse work, I leave late in the morning, she comes early in the evening. So, in the morning when I leave, I use that key to lock it. If I have 2 copies, good. She has another copy, she comes earlier, opens, or otherwise what we do? We hide it on top of the door sill. We keep it in the flower pot. Any one of these methods can be broken. So, in asymmetric encryption, what we have is, when I leave, to lock I use one key, to unlock my spouse uses a completely different key. We do not even need. If she loses the key, somebody can only unlock the lock, they cannot lock it. If I lose the key, somebody can only lock it but cannot unlock. What I wonder. Now, if I need to keep the capability to open the door, but I want to leave the capability to lock the door with n number of people, like my plumber, my maid, my cook, they all come home, I leave home early, I want them to be able to lock the door and leave, whereas only I want to keep the capability to unlock the door. Imagine what I can do. I will make n number of copies of the keys to lock the door, I make only one copy of the key to unlock the door. So, I distribute those keys, they come, they do their work even if I am not at home, lock it, they have to come when I am there, I leave, they lock the door and leave, when I come back only I can unlock. We can think of uses like that, and that is exactly what is asymmetric encryption. For a long time it was thought that mathematically it is not possible, till it was actually demonstrated that it is such a possible, and today much of the encryption we see in the world, whether it is in the e-commerce, internet, aggregation, blockchain, digital signatures, what have you, they all heavily use asymmetric encryption. Point though, asymmetric encryption is quite computationally very intensive, it can slow down the system a lot. So, there are many hybrid systems which use asymmetric encryption for a part of it, use symmetric key encryption, SSL being an example, we will see that, but in essence that is what asymmetric encryption is. We use one key to lock, one key to encrypt, another key to unlock, or another key to decrypt. Pass, I use X as my key to encrypt, you get the ciphertext UFXX, you use a different key Y to decrypt it. The terms you might have heard like by PKI, digital certificates, SSL, all these heavily leverage types of encryption. Now, asymmetric encryption, cryptocurrencies also use asymmetric encryption. They have, we will see what they have, a public key and a private key, and the private key is the one we need to keep secret. So, okay. So, going back for to summarize, we have symmetric key encryption. Any key, any system theoretically can be broken. Like the moment you catch hold of the key what I am using for any symmetric encryption, you can break it. It is possible you use very heavily mathematical systems with very strong computers to break the asymmetric encryption also, theoretically possible. The safest unbreakable encryption is what is called a one-time pad. Both of us agree, we print 2 pads with all keys, you take it wherever you go. Every time I send you a message, I use the first page, use it for as the key for encryption, send it to you, you read, destroy that page. Second time I use a different key, encrypt it, reaches you, we both destroy the page. That way for every transmission I am using, both of us by agreement using that pad, we use one page at a time, encrypt it and destroy that, that cannot be broken. So far that has been proven to be. Most of the systems where we receive one OTP number, like we try to do a transfer using my bank to the bank account, it calls me for an OTP to make sure that I am the person doing the transaction. They are semi OTP, that is they require only 4 digits or 6 digits. Those can be very easily broken, but they change from period to period. The OTP sent to you may be valid for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If somebody has to break it, they have to break it within that period, otherwise they cannot break. But a real OTP means we both carry one set of keys with each of us. For every transmission we use one key, after the key we destroy, never to use it again. That is the only known safe encryption. Everything else theoretically can be broken. And one-time pad, DES, AES are all examples of symmetric key encryption that we just saw. The key used to encrypt is the key used to decrypt. In all these cases, all the users should share a single key. So, keeping a key secret, distributing the key secretly is a big challenge in symmetric key encryption. So, challenge is how to distribute keys. However, this is mathematically fast. In computationally, symmetric key encryption is fast. Both of us use the same key, I use it to decrypt, send it to you, you decrypt. And there is a challenge of key distribution. Asymmetric key encryption, just now we saw, solves this problem by having 2 different keys, one for encryption, one for decryption. Let us see how it works. For every communication, there will be a pair of related keys, that is one key used for encryption, one key used for decryption. I generate a pair of keys. Say suppose I want to send you a message safely, or make sure the second part of sending message, how do you know message has been sent by me? There are 2 components, right? I send you a message to you which you are able to decrypt and read, and you also need some evidence that I have sent you the message. You want an authentication that I have sent a message, nobody else could have sent the message to you. This is called non-repudiation. I cannot, once I send you the message, you should be able to prove that only I could have sent the message. If I send you a message like fail, you have failed. Obviously, you are unhappy, you want to make sure that I am the one who sent. Let us see how asymmetric encryption takes care of that. So, I generate a pair of keys. I make, it does not matter which one, I make one key available to everyone. I put it on my website, you can download it. I will send it to you. Anybody can get it. I will call it as a public key. It is open. And I keep my private key safe. It is secret, it is only with me. You generate a pair of keys. You put one openly on your site, anybody can get it, and keep the other private. So, I have my public key and my private key, your public key and your private key. Let us see. I send you a message. I send you a message and I encrypt it using my private key. I have a private key, I use it for encryption, I send it to you. How can you decrypt it? You can use my public key. The 2 are different. You download that key from my site, use it to decrypt it. What does this prove? Since you are able to decrypt it using my public key, only I could have sent it to you. Nobody else could have sent it. Now, how do I make sure that only you can read. This ensures authenticity, that only I cannot go back and say I did not send it, because you can prove that only my private key could have encrypted it, which the public key could have decrypted it. How do I send it secretly to you? Remember, you have generated a pair of keys, one public and one private. I will use your public key to encrypt the message. I am going to say you have passed. I will use your public key to encrypt it and send it to you, and further I will use my public key to encrypt it further. I do it twice. It reaches you, you use my public key to decrypt it. I use my private key to encrypt it, so you use my public key to decrypt it, which proves that only I could have sent you. Then you use your private key, which is not available to anyone else. If somebody intercepts the message, they cannot decrypt it, because the second part, the second encryption, they cannot decrypt it because it is done using your private key. You decrypt it and only you can do that. Nobody else has your private key. So, let us recap again. Both of us have two pairs of keys. I encrypt the message that you have passed using your public key, which only you can decrypt because you are the private key, and I encrypt it again using my private key. So, when you decrypt it using my public key, it proves that only I could have sent you, and you decrypt it using your private key, which only you can do. So, message reaches you confidentially. Now, both of us do not have to worry about key distribution at all. I have made my key public to everyone, they can do certain things with that. You have made your key public to everyone. Despite public key being known to everyone, I can safely send a message, only you can decrypt it, and I can also send it in such a way that you can prove that I have sent it. This is the wonder of asymmetric key encryption. So, one key is made public, other key is to be kept secret, private key. Keys are always related, they are related to each other, they do not exist independently. If I generate a set of keys, I should generate one public and one private simultaneously. Likewise, you should do. Full two-way encryption between two people requires two pairs of keys. So, with two pairs of keys, we can do both encryption as well as non-repudiation or authentication. It solves the key distribution problem. It provides authentication, that means provides confidentiality, not authentication, and non-repudiation. Computationally, it is very intensive and slow. It requires factoring large numbers into integers, and but the mathematics behind it is very elegant and beautiful. We do not have the time to go through that, but do understand that this is this wonderful thing where we use two different keys and we do not have to worry about distributing the keys. Some of the names you would have heard in terms of asymmetric key encryption algorithms are RSA, Blowfish, elliptical curve cryptography, ECC, LGAML. These are all various algorithms which implement the asymmetric key encryption. It is used in PKI and digital certificates. Digital certificate means what? Or more importantly, it says digital signatures. Digital certificates and digital signatures are related. How do you know that I have sent you the document? Now, we have seen how, right? I generate a pair of keys, use it using my private key, I encrypt it and send it to you. You decrypt it using my public key. That is how you are proving. Now, I cannot say that I have not sent you. You are proving because only I have the private key, I could have encrypted that. So, it is almost like signing the document. When I sign the document, you can always prove that I have signed by matching the signatures. This is almost like that. So, it is used for digital signatures. Now, there comes the question that unless I and you know each other, you know that this is my public key, not somebody else has published. Somebody else with the same name, Surendra Hanumantrao, might publish that this is my public key. How do you know that it is this Surendra Hanumantrao who has generated this public key? Therein comes the concept of public key infrastructure. There are companies which issue a digital certificate, what is called a digital certificate. You might have noticed that when you go to certain sites, your browser may warn you that the certificates do not match, or certificates might have outdated. What it means is, say if I go to my bank site, HDFC Bank, you know there is this problem of phishing and all those things. How do I know that I have actually gone to HDFC Bank's site? So, when I go to www.hdfcbank.com, the server sends me a message encoded by its private key, and public key is available. I know that I can go to any site, says this is HDFC Bank's public key, I use that to decrypt, and now I am sure that it is from that private key. How do I know that this private key is stored by HDFC Bank? How do you know that this stored private key is with HDFC Bank? There are companies like VeriSign which certify that, they guarantee that. VeriSign says, I generated these 2 pairs of keys, one private key I have given it to HDFC Bank, public key is available everywhere. So, when HDFC Bank sends you some communication, some recognition using their private key, and if you are able to decrypt it using that private key, that public key, then be sure I am guaranteeing that this pair of keys belongs to HDFC Bank. It is an entirely private and voluntary affair, but has been working very effectively. There are many companies like VeriSign and Thought, different companies which issue certificates. Even there are companies in India like some of these e-governance initiatives require certificates issued by companies like Encode and TCS and companies like that. So, it is used for digital certificates and digital signatures to make sure that the communication we are receiving from some site, a site which claims to be HDFC Bank, actually is coming from HDFC Bank. Asymmetric key encryption is also heavily used in cryptocurrencies. Essentially, what a cryptocurrency, Bitcoin is what you store is the private key. Bitcoin is nothing but a pair of keys in which there is a public key available to everyone. What you store secretly is your Bitcoin that you own. So, how do you prove to somebody that you own this Bitcoin? You have the private key of your Bitcoin, one coin, you encrypt some text using that private key. If somebody is able to decrypt it using your public key, it proves that you own that particular cryptocurrency, whether it is Bitcoin or Ether or Ripple or whatever it is. So, cryptocurrencies heavily depend on asymmetric encryption, and SSL, secure sockets layer, which is essentially the foundation of entire e-commerce, also leverages asymmetric key encryption. So, let us briefly look at SSL because it is so common. It is not relevant to blockchain, but so heavily used. So, let us look at it. It is called secure sockets layer. It is the technology behind encryption on the web today, and how it shows. Every site, remember, URL begins with http/ something something something, www that something. If it is secured using SSL, you will notice that it starts with https ://www. So, when you see a site, when I say www.hdfcbank.com, the response that it comes back with, the home page will not start with HTTP, it starts with HTTPS, which is a signal to me saying that he is using SSL, secure sockets layer, to encrypt all the communication between me and HDFC Bank's server. SSL as it is uses both symmetric and asymmetric encryption. The reason being, asymmetric encryption is very computationally intensive. So, what it does is, for the initial communication, SSL uses asymmetric communication. It uses the asymmetric key, the public key and a combination of public key and private key, to generate a key for that particular session. It uses it to transfer safely to me. Once that is done safely, from that session on, we use a common key. It is quite complex, but do understand that SSL uses both. It uses a combination of asymmetric encryption and symmetric encryption to make the transmission faster. Digital certificates are used for server authentication. Once I go to HDFC Bank site, it sends back the home page. How do I trust? It sends me some communication encrypted with its digital certificate or its private key. I use public key available to decrypt it, and a company like VeriSign is guaranteeing that if I am able to do this, that certificate, that server belongs to HDFC Bank. Once the server proves to me that it is the HDFC Bank's server, it establishes a secure channel by a combination of exchanging the key and sends me a key for that session. From that point on, for that session, we use that key for symmetric encryption. So, it uses a combination of asymmetric. For those who are interested, there is enough material on the web and elsewhere. Go through step by step to see how this combination works, and this has ensured the security of all the information on e-commerce. Remember, internet is open, anybody can attack anything, they can intercept traffic anywhere. How are we safely doing all the communication? How do I safely send my credit card number with full faith? How do I safely send my bank account number with full faith? Because of the magic of SSL, which leverages asymmetric encryption and symmetric encryption. Blockchains use all types of encryption. They use asymmetric encryption, symmetric encryption and hashing for different aspects of the transactions. To ensure the security of information, confidentiality and integrity of the operations. And this one simple example of how it uses hashing. A blockchain is nothing but a hash chain where every block is linked to the previous block by including a pointer to the hash of the previous block as part of its data. This block A is related to block B because it stores the hash of block B, which is a pointer to block B. Okay. So, this was a little necessary to understand encryption because my objective in mentioning this is to understand that a lot of work, lot of mathematics has gone into ensuring that our data is secure. There are different types of encryption. So, when you hear terms like hashing or encryption, decryption, encryption algorithm, RSA, DES, AES, understand that these are all various techniques and tools used to ensure that the data, that all the transmission is secure, that somebody cannot steal it and compromise with that. It ensures the security, integrity and confidentiality, integrity and availability of the information. This in summary is a brief session on encryption. For those who are not technically oriented, my objective is for you to know that there is this level of complexity which goes in, which has made as secure as possible. Can any system be fully secure? Probably not. Any lock I can make, there will be somebody who can break it, any locksmith can break it, but these are making it as secure as possible within reasonable limits, which should give us confidence to transact safely. That is what we do. Whenever we go to an Amazon site and buy something on Amazon, whenever we buy something from Flipkart, we are using, without us knowing, a combination of all these. We are using digital certificates, symmetric encryption, asymmetric encryption. At times our password, for example, is even used in hashing. This completes lecture number 2. Thank you.